Kia ora, good morning. Okay, so today's connecting the dots, although I just did one a few hours ago, but I do these intuitively, so here we go. I was watching a video about the devil's footprints in 1855 in Devonshire, England. This is why I want to go out and make my shows in the UK and that before I leave, because I'm telling you, there's so many places that we can go to and investigate. Just in England alone, let alone Scotland and Wales and Ireland and that. But so there's this story from 1855 where these people in the village of Devon woke up one morning to find like a cloven hooved footprint in the snow. It was 1 foot, and it was going up over the roofs. It was going down through drains. It was spread out 100 miles, going from village to village, leading up to people's front doors. And when people followed the tracks, it went into the forest. And when they sent the dogs in, the dogs came out screaming. And nobody could figure out where these footprints had come from. It hit the newspapers. Everyone was saying, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that, mostly animals. And then, people saying it was the devil, and hysteria ensued. And the local clergyman, was trying to do everything he could to calm the tensions and saying, oh, well, maybe it was probably an escaped kangaroo, because apparently at the time a lot of people kept kangaroos as private animals in the area. So, it wasn't a too far-fetched suggestion, but it would lead at one point, like it led up to the water, and yeah, it stretched 100 miles in the span of the course of one night. And over the years, people have speculated what it was, what it could have been. And there was a suggestion that it could have been a bird, like a bird had made the footprints, which when I looked into it, could have been right, because the area where a lot of this took place is actually a sanctuary now for the RSPB. So that could absolutely have been a possibility. The other thing is that people said it was jumping wood mice, because when wood mice jump in the snow, it can give like a hoof impression, which okay, these could be logical, reasonable explanations. You're talking about the early to mid 19th century, and that people still were trying to grapple with the understanding of what the occult was. They were moving into that period of having tarot readings and doing seances, and opening themselves up to the possibility that there was more to life than that there was more to life after death than what we knew, and the whole sort of thing. But they were also still very superstitious and religious. Back in those days, a lot of the women in that still, they were cunning men and women, in that they practiced what you would call witchcraft, by which I mean they were herbologists, and they were, the garden was their apothecary, and everything from, using a poultice for. Well, my mum used to use things like she'd grate soap. She'd grate a certain kind of soap and put salt and stuff in it to, and then put it in a cloth to draw out the boil and that sort of thing. But you could also use like tomatoes and stuff. All this sort of thing back then was as common as brushing your teeth and brushing your hair, which would now be considered witchcraft today. So when governments and militaries were getting up to no good, when they get up to no good, they play on people's superstitions, they play on their religious beliefs, they play on their ancestry, they will play on the mythologies and folklores of the area. I keep saying it. So when I was just investigating it, the first thing I did was looked up to see what military bases and that were nearby, and lo and behold, In 1855, the British Navy took over that entire area because they were building highly advanced, brand new technology for their ships that they needed to keep undercover, and it was the war division of the British Navy who took over that area in 1855. So the exact year, around the same time when the people were experiencing these devil's footprints, the British Navy took over that area to build ships in the area within their dockyard that were highly top secret because they were working on brand new technology, probably involving a lot of Nikola Tesla stuff. So that explains that. And now, why am I saying that? Because one of the things that eyewitnesses reported saying the reason why it was the devil, because there was this one hoof, is that when they examined the hoof, that people said it looked like the snow had melted, so it was the devil coming from hell, and that it looked like the snow had melted and then set. So it had gone like ice cube kind of snow around the hoof. And other people said that it had claws in the hoof. People said you could distinctly see claws in the hoof. And when I heard that, the first thing I thought was nails, as in nails, as in hammer and nails, which means what they'd done is they had, I'm guessing they probably got a few people and put them on like stilts where they would have to, it would look like it was moving 1 foot at a time, like it was hopping, but it was actually someone on stilts, or it was something that it was even suggested, even somebody had suggested that they'd flown like some sort of weather balloon and like dragged things along the ground to make it, which would explain why it was able to go up over the roofs and that, which is highly plausible if you're talking about the British military, because they did use balloons and things like that at that time. They could have very easily have dragged something along the rooftops and that. Otherwise, I think a lot of it, maybe for the stuff that was floated up over the, on the roofs and that. But I think for the most part, like with the crop circles, it's people on stilts because of the nails. Because clearly they'd taken maybe like a donkey shoe and done something with it and then nailed it to the wood or the frame or the pole or whatever it was they were using. So what they mistook to be claws would have been nails, where they'd nailed the shoe into whatever it was that they were using to stamp it on the ground, and whatever it was they were using must have been hot, must have been like heated to scare the bejeebers out of people, to make sure that they kept away from the dockyard. Because then what happened was people refused to leave their houses after dark. So obviously what they were doing was under the cover of darkness, and they needed to keep people away and keep them indoors, to keep them from seeing what was going on in the dockyards. And it worked, because everybody refused to come out of their houses. So that's that explanation. They do use stilts, and they could have very easily have put something on a balloon and, dragged it. But it definitely sounds like they had multiple people working together to meet in the middle, like to meet at one point. So it made it look like they were covering longer distances as one person to scare the bejesus out of people. Because that's what they do. They mess with your head. They play with your mind, which is why you need to wake up. So when all this stuff is happening in the skies that people are putting up on YouTube and all of that, and it's like, oh my God, what's happening? It's aliens, it's supernatural, it's blah, blah, blah. That's what they want you to think. It's all in your head. So there is no alien invasion. It's Project Bluebeam. If you fall for it, I mean, oh my God, just don't fall for it. Just don't fall for it. Just remember my alien Zorb ball dream. I'll put a link in the description box below. So just, yeah, use logic. Stop spreading the toxicity of fear and misunderstanding, because it gives them power, and it makes it worse for you, for your psychological mind, because then it makes you look crazy. And I'm here to dispel that myth that it is anything but mental illness. So, yeah, the Devil's Footprints. I'll put links in the description box below. Speak to you later. Hold your head up high and happy Sabbath. Ka kite anō. Mwah.